A vast storm wages beyond the glass veil. To step outside might be quite the risk, but to an adventurer, this is always the first step. Will you risk it all and answer the call of the howling winds, face the undreamt of, or will you cower and choose to become forgotten? Myself, I'll try the former. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is llBonkll, the one-hit wonder, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we continue the Indie Gems series with a second edition. At least that's how the video started. This time, we're looking at a very well-known game, Risk of Rain 2. If you want to know the rules and stuff for this series, I'll put a card up there or up somewhere for the first video in the series, which explains all of that. In this video, we'll be heading right on in, especially because I got a little out of control here, and this is probably moved beyond a Indie Gems video, and yeah, it's really long. So there will be chapters included, as it will be a longer video in the down below area. If you want to see, there'll be like 3 main chapters and then like the smaller bit at the end over here. This game was once again recommended through my Discord when I first asked people for indie games back when I started this series, and this was actually requested by 2 different people, so I knew it was probably a good one to give a go next. And I did give it a go at the time. For those that recall the rules, I will say I broke one. I played this game a lot lately. I've been having tons of fun with it, but I'm gonna take you guys along as best I can without spoiling as much as I possibly can avoid spoiling, without at the same time taking away from the experience of the video and not giving you a true look at the game. And it's gonna be hard to kind of balance that, so I'm gonna have to spoil a couple things, but a lot of the fun of Risk of Rain, I found, is the discovery. So I will try to be very brief when it comes to the actual details in certain scenarios. You'll understand what I mean later. So again, I played the game a lot, so sorry for breaking that rule. It's a gem. This game is a gem. Sorry for the early spoiler, but when you hear me explain in this giant video what this game's about, you'll be hyped to jump into, I bet. That's why I say it started as an Indie Gems video. It didn't exactly stay on plan. A little disclaimer, I didn't speak a lot on the DLC in this video. There is brief mentions of things that are part of the DLC, such as, you know, the 2 characters are part of my broad, there are this many characters in the game and such, but I wanted this video to be mainly focused on the main game and try to avoid the DLC stuff, as it already has so much that there is to talk about in the main game that adding the DLC would have just made this video insanely long. And in the future, if this does well, I can always go back and I can make a DLC Risk of Rain 2 video to show you guys what the Survivors of the Void is all about. So, what is Risk of Rain 2? Well, it is a third-person roguelike game developed by Hopoo Games, or Hoopity Boo Games, and published by Mr. Gearbox. And yes, there is a Risk of Rain 1 and a Risk of Rain Returns. No, I have not played either. Will eventually, probably, but they are not exactly the same as this game. They're more like side-scroller type games. Alright, anyway, when you first load in, you'll see a little cutscene about a ship and but to be honest, I skipped it the first time I played, but I will play it here on screen for you guys to see while I am talking about the intro characters that you will have access to when you first jump in. These 2 characters are the Huntress and the Commando, an archer and a military type respectively. Each of these characters comes with 4 basic abilities and a few alternate versions of these skills obtainable through achievement challenge hybrid type things, which I will explain in more detail in the achievement section of this video. The Huntress starts with her basic attack Strafe, which is her primary skill. Your normal bow shot. It auto-tracks to the targets close enough. It's great for if you suck, but I found it more annoying I couldn't shoot stuff that was more than 20 feet away because she straight up does not track it, therefore she cannot fire. But overall, when you're jumping around and there's a bunch of enemies close to you, her second skill is dummy busted, and it is known as Laser Glaive. This is basically a tracking projectile, but it bounces up to 6 different targets, and each target it hits will add 10% bonus damage to the next hit on a target. So it eventually can hit, you know, the 6 targets, and that last target will get a 50% damage bonus hit on them. I believe it might be 60, but I don't think the math's there. Anyway, it's a lot of damage. And there's an item I'll talk about soon actually that has become pretty much the Huntress the Huntress item, and it makes her glaive insane. Then comes her third skill. The third skill on each character is known as their utility skill, or movement skill for these two starting characters. Huntress's is known as Blink, just a straight up teleport. It is super fun, you can do it in every direction, even straight to see Stanley himself if you would like. You basically just tower above the enjoyment you get from using the Commando's utility. Anyway, now comes the big kahuna, the ulti skill. For Huntress, it is to rain down arrows as the basic version, and with this you can actually jump up pretty high into the air before you shoot the rain down in an area of your choosing, as you aim this circle at the ground and it appears like very clearly, so you can aim it easily. It's amazing. Unless you were dumb and you bonked your head and you can't aim at anything but the ground directly below you. But not only that, your glaive will keep you in the air if you use it right after, and then you can blink right away, allowing for some really smooth flow to the archer's gameplay, or the Huntress's gameplay. And I know I talk smack on the basic attack, but when I use it in this kind of game, it really isn't that bad. Sometimes the game gets crazy with the amount of enemies that are surrounding you, and then there's Commando, plain as bread character, and if I'm being honest, although he's a lot easier to use when you're first starting out, for me, starting on Huntress and then trying Commando is probably one of the most unenjoyable experiences I've had. He's just boring as and I'll explain why it was probably intentional. See, Commando is meant to be like the all-rounder type, the simpleton amongst freaks, and it shows, especially once you've tried some of the other unlockable characters. His primary is just a gun, it shoots 6 times per second, it has damage fall off, his secondary is a piercing shot, and one of his only helpful abilities in terms of adding a bit of fun to his kit. See, this pierces through an enemy, and each enemy it pierces through, similar to how the laser glaive work, will add bonus damage to like 40% bonus damage per each target passes through. It can be really fun when you're in a match with like a ton of enemies spawning around you and you can nail like 20 guys like right through with the piercing shot at the same time, which gives it so much bonus damage, especially paired with other items. It can just be an easy shoot this one shot, everything explodes. But in terms of a long run and spending a lot of time in this game, I would much rather use any other character's fun ability, such as Blink, which, as aforementioned, is just leagues above this guy's movement skill, which is a roll. And spoiler, is lame. And also spoiler, the alt version is a slide or little air jump, which is also lame in my opinion. His ulti, now I know what you're thinking. This guy's gotta have at least a cool ultimate ability. Like an airstrike or something? I don't know. No, my friend. He shoots suppressing fire. An apt name since it sucks and is just shooting your gun a little bit faster with stun shots. It is actually incredible how they managed to make this guy so lame compared to the other characters, and how this is the last time I will mention the common don't, because I prefer forgetting him unless I'm mentioning him to talk shit. Anyway, Archer would be proud. Not like the Huntress Archer, like the show. If anyone's watched it, they probably get the joke right away, but it's confusing if you have not watched the show. Bad joke right there. Anyway, those were your two choices, and after you pick Huntress, because she's the GOAT and not an absolute joke, you head into your first run. Yes, run. Because this game started a timer in the top right, and you can see that the difficulty seems to be based on this timer, as a mysterious objective tells you to locate and activate the teleporter and nothing more, with a small symbol. As you scramble to fight off the enemies and spot chests on the ground all around you, of various types, all with a scaling cost, so watch your timer and try to map your route to open as many chests as you can before it's time for the teleporter. Each of these chests may be different, as the types vary from a basic chest, a healing item chest, a weapon item chest, and even the chance to find a special activatable equipment chest that are these little red boxes that could have something like big drones or missiles, and even a pack of 3 sort of chests you can find, where you kind of just get to like pick from the 3 items which one you want. It adds for a little bit of build crafting in nature before you get to the true end game, where you unlock something that I will talk about a lot later, where it becomes like super easy to build craft. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So those are the chests. You'll find these all around the place. I think a certain number of chests spawn, or it's like a certain number of gold drops from enemies in a stage, so you kind of do have to plan your route and then move on. But there are some times when you can get everything because there's just enemies spawning and you have the perfect route, you're getting lucky, and you know, I can't talk about it because we haven't gotten there yet, but I'll tell you in a second. First, let's talk about the basic mods that you may find mind before we get to the explanation in the next chapter of what allows you to acquire the chance to find them all. The ones that you'll most likely be finding around the start of your first game will be white or common mods. These small or common items mods will give you a stacking buff if you get more than one of them, just like any other item, but these are more smaller and less of a big deal buffs. But when they start stacking, that's when you see the true power of these common items, because a lot of games, the whites, you just throw them away once you have the higher rarity. In this game, they can be a game changer. So as an example, I will use something like the tri-tip dagger, which is one of the commons that you do not have to unlock. It is already going to be something that might drop. This allows for a chance at bleeding your target on hit. With one of these, you get a 10% chance, and each additive stacked item will grant another 10% chance on that bleed. I'll quickly show you on screen a view of all of the items, and as you can see, at least all of the items that I have unlocked and can see, there are a lot. But the common ones at the top there are the ones that you're going to be most likely seeing off the bat. If you make it to a little bit later into stage 1, you might find some uncommons. You could get super lucky. Who knows? Find something better. But I would say for the most part, a lot of people in their first run will find maybe 1 or 2 uncommons and a bunch of commons before they die. Because yeah, this isn't an easy game. But obviously, I doubt that if you're doing a normal run or a monsoon run, you will make it very far your first go around. And these higher rarity items are, rarer items. The screen I showed you of the ones I've found so far is in an area in the menu called the logbook. And this will tell you everything you need to know about an item's stats and how it stacks with itself. The logbook has many other sections, but not relating to your items. Also, these items will help you realize true fashion, as each item obtained will slowly change your character's appearance in the game. And you will know this because every time you pick it up, you just have to look for that little white box that's going to appear on your character. It'll tell you exactly where that item just went on the character. Sometimes stuff like gets put somewhere there's already something. Eventually it becomes true chaos and you look great. I'm just saying. I mean, it looks pretty sick, man. Even your equipment or your activated item will also appear on your body. So anyway, you get some mods, you open some chests, and now you're ready to find the ominously written objective of the teleporter. So you look for something that looks similar to it and you find it. Now, a little tip for players here. If you're struggling to find the teleporter, this is something that took me way too long to realize. There is like red sparkles all around the area where the teleporter is. So if you get to like a high point, like a good vantage point in a map, you can just find the teleporter most of the time unless it's tucked away somewhere. So if you don't see those red sparkles when you're at a very good vantage point, it probably means it's tucked away in one of the caverns or the hidden little side areas or underneath something or above you even if you're in a map where there is even higher spots. It's just a good thing to know because it will help you find the teleporter very easily. The first time I jumped into this game with my friend Isaac, I think it took us like 7 minutes to find the teleporter, but to be fair, we were on a really weird vertical map in our very first game going in blind. But still, if we knew about the red things, we would have found it. So anyway, back to the part where you walk up to it and uh-oh, you activated it and opened the portal to hell or something probably, because enemies start spawning on the instant, and so does a huge teleporter boss, usually a random one of a couple. Something else you notice is the ring that formed around you. A semi-barrier of sorts that you must stay within in order to actually charge the teleporter to escape to the next stage. Along with this, any items within the circle can still be bought once the boss is defeated, and even after you get the teleporter charged, you can go spend gold on other stuff that you forgot on the map and maybe you remember where it is and can run over there quick. As you watch the percent grow on the teleporter and you try not to get one tap, you take out the big boss and notice a new item appears near the teleporter, always a high tier item, and if you're playing with friends, it will spawn this item for your whole team to at least each get one. Sometimes it won't always be a duplicate of like 4 of the same item, but there will be 4 items. Like maybe sometimes your friend gets lucky and gets something cool and it's like 3 of one item and then your friend gets that one cool thing. And what am I talking about with the cool thing? Well, sometimes a boss will drop their special item, an incredibly powerful item that relates to the boss that you just defeated in some way. For example, this is the one boss that I will reveal as their item. I obviously have footage playing. You've probably seen a couple different different enemies and bosses and things like that. I'm talking about this game that's just going to happen. I'm just trying to avoid actually explaining exactly what you're going to be finding and who you're fighting as best I can, like trying to keep it as vague as possible. So the magma worm, for example, well, maybe you'll get lucky and you have now magma balls flying all over in every fight after this. Not just teleporter fights, just anytime you're fighting enemies, there will be magma balls now, and they will track shit and blow up, and it's great. And I just think this is a spectacular idea by the devs. Adding that small chance for something truly legendary to be acquired, and having it a randomized item that you might get from a randomized chance you might find that boss, it adds to the replayability of that game. And that is this game's most important feature. Its replayability. It's both a small game and a behemoth of a game, all at once. It's wrapped in a package of an indie game, but truly breaking those boundaries to allow for so much fun to be had alone and in groups over and over with just a simple premise. Best part? No microtransactions, obviously. You buy the game, you can get everything unlocked in the game. Obviously, DLC is different story than microtransactions. So like the 2 characters that come with the DLC, you obviously have to buy the DLC, but that's not the same. And I love being able to actually get the shit. That includes the cosmetics for the characters. Like, why? Why is that not a normal thing? Who knows, man? But anyway, I keep getting off track. Basically, the simple premise is, go fast, don't die, allow your power to become something of myth. Along with this, you can find shrines around the map. The blood shrine gives gold, but hurts you. That's the thing I was talking about that I couldn't talk about earlier. So that's another way to get some gold, is by hurting yourself on these blood shrines. So if you are like barely about to make it to a chest before you want to start teleporter fight and there's a blood shrine somewhere and it will give you enough money, then go for it. The other shrine that you will find probably in your first couple games is called the healing shrine, and it will create a healing field. Yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory. The luck shrine, you pay for a chance at an item. It's basically a slot machine, except you have no idea what the chances are. You don't see like the, oh, it hit that, no, you just spend your money and it goes haha, or it goes hey. That's pretty much it. This can drop 2 items max per shrine, and it's a really big scam sometimes, but also you can be insanely lucky sometimes. Since you can just get unlucky with every roll, it is best to kind of give up at a certain point when you've spent too much of your money, but at the same time, gambling. And finally, there is the Shrine of the Mountain. This is the most important shrine to remember what it does, because you may actually, screw yourself over like super hard, or you could just make your run unstoppable. When you activate a mountain challenge, which can be found multiple times in one stage and will stack the effects, this will make the teleporter event have more enemies, more bosses, and double the drops when you kill those bosses. Even if your team is full, you all get double drops. So, you completed the teleporter and you head on to the next stage, where you once again find your items and go to the teleporter. Again, I'll also mention that there are other things besides chests that you can find around. These include drones that you can buy that will float around you and do various things. So far, I've personally found the gunner drone, the healing drone, the incinerator drone, and the equipment drone, which is OP as because when activated, they take your current equipment out and put it on them, so that your active skill is now open again and you can get a different item, and that drone will be constantly passively using your old item. It's crazy. Obviously, the healing drone heals you, gunner drone shoots, and incinerator drone has fire. So, getting more than one equipment drone will boost you to the very top of your team's power dynamic very quickly. But again, you are timed in this game, so you have to be very quick with it, or you may get messed up by the teleboss because you waited in a stage too long, and now the game's straight up laughing at your misfortune while also cosplaying as your crazy uncle in the insane asylum up the street. Basically, what you gotta do is just the same thing as you make your build until you reach the teleporter to the moon. Here, you complete a few basic objectives, there are no chests, and then you head up to the boss fight. Now is the time to explain the non-chess but still possible item things that you'll find in every stage. These are 3D printers. Didn't get the loot you wanted? Your build absolutely cooked beyond calling the fire department? Well, it's still patchable. Because with a 3D printer, you put an item of the same rarity and you get a 3D printed item. And you can reuse the same one over and over. Want 10 crowbars to beat a challenge? Well, you just found a crowbar 3D printer. Just dump all of your common items in there, bam. But there is a huge downside. You don't choose which item of the same rarity goes in, so sometimes you just end up losing a few good items of that tier that you got, and it's very disheartening when you're basically just made your situation worse. So you always have to be sure about your 3D printing. It's really a mixed bag on whether you're going to be truly better off, or maybe you just cut the gas main and decided insurance would cover it. Back to the big boy. Well, it's tough but not impossible. If you play your cards right, sometimes it is worth it to make sure you're ready, even if the stages take a little longer than normal. I see people recommending 5 minutes max per stage, but that's just a general kind of rule that people follow for if you're just starting out before you understand the game. Sometimes I found more luck in staying a bit longer, and sometimes there's still plenty of items to earn, and it's all about looking at what's actually on the map and taking note of where you've seen things, especially for after you beat the teleporter, because you could just go and make a little map in your head. Okay, I'm doing teleport right now, but as soon as this finishes, I'm gonna blink over there, grab that thing, and then I'm gonna sprint jump over here, then I'm gonna blink over there and get 3 things, and then come back to the teleporter. If all you're doing in a stage is just gambling over and over again at the lucky shrines, then it's probably best to move on after the shrine shoved a middle finger in your face too many times. I've learned that from experience, sadly. Your gear, whether you got lucky or not, will 100% determine how jolly of a time you're going to have in this boss fight, so be prepared. I will not be telling you about this fight or what happens after, because that's one of the things that I definitely think you should figure out on your own. I believe in all of you. Well, some. See, this is actually a pretty tough game for a lot of people, and personally took me a while to finally beat the boss the first time. Mostly because I was trying to unlock everything, which a lot of this happens in previous stages and takes some time, so it ends up hurting you in the long run. But I made it eventually, and there you went. I will say, if you just want to beat the game and like see the end, you can play on the easy mode because it is incredibly easy. I tried it once after I first had completed the normal mode, and it is vastly different in terms of chances of being one-shotted by BS. The monsters in this game may all be just slight variations, but there is enough different enemy types to make it more interesting, especially when you look at the fact that some of the enemies have elite forms. Basically just a stronger version of that enemy with some sort of special element or skill attached to them, like fire elites or frost elites. The latter of which will explode in a frost nova and freeze you within that radius if you don't move out in time. And then there's things like shield enemies that have a bit of extra health, and you have to chunk through them a little more. Anyway, I don't have time to go in depth with the enemies as much. I'm hoping you guys will play it and experience this game for yourself. I know it costs money, but it is one that you should try out if you have the opportunity. Of course, the bosses are different. It's not really just like the normal game thing where it's bigger guy, normal guy. There are very similar, but not quite copy pasta. Technically, you could say they are, but I would consider it the other way around, since you only end up finding the smaller versions of these guys in later stages. So you actually might see the boss versions in most cases first. That's why I think there's a big difference, because in the first stage, there's no way you see any of those boss guys, at least not when you're starting out. And there you have it, folks, the very basics of Risky Reign 2. Now we enter the epitome of replayability, and why you, like me, will want to jump into the next match. Over and over and over again, with a lust for loot, explosions, ghost daggers, freezing fields, shadow dancing, and your wildest dreams. Every Steam achievement pop-up floods your brain with dopamine, ready to find out what you just unlocked, and how it will add to your tyrannical rule over the monsters of this turbulent hurricane. Achievements. This game is like no other I've played when it comes to how the achievements truly mean something to your gameplay. In Risk of Rain 2, I've never felt more compelled to 100% a game. So because of that, the first thing I want to say is that if you're the type to achievement farm and try to perfect games, Risk is one you're gonna want to give a shot. Allow me to explain why. See, a large chunk of items, actually, I don't know about that, I think I'm exaggerating a bit, but a lot of them, there is a lot in this game that are not unlocked at the start for free. You must complete the challenge for it, or basically the Steam achievement or vice versa. In this game, there are 30 common mods, 31 uncommon mods, 28 legendary mods, 16 different special boss mods, 18 lunar items, a special deal with the devil type item class that has always got a benefit it in negative. And finally, 38 orange equipment mods. Now, not all of these must be unlocked through achievements, especially the majority of commons, as even those that require achievement you'll do on accident, such as kill an elite. Got that in my one of my first runs, first stage in the first minute. Another like that would be like the bear for dying 5 times. Obviously, you're gonna do that if you just play the game for like an hour, or if you're good, maybe it would take longer, or if you're playing on easy mode, it would take longer, but don't be a bitch. But see, some of these are not so easy. Allow me to find you an example by looking at one of the achievements that I currently have unlocked that relates to a puzzle. This will be the only one that I will reveal to you guys puzzle-wise. There are a few in these maps, but I wanted to highlight at least one and how it unlocks an item because I think it's a very interesting thing and I think it will pull some of you guys in. Kajaro's band and Runald's band. 2 items actually found through finding a secret room within the aqueduct stage. This will be the only secret I reveal, as I stated, only to show you the potential of how this game gets you to not only want to replay it over and over, but look around the maps. See, in aqueducts, you can find a hidden chamber, and the only reason you know this is a challenge is because there is an achievement called Death Do Us Part, and it says find the hidden chamber in the aqueduct stage. So you see this and you head into aqueducts and you look around. There's a big door, but you can't open it unless you happen to notice and find 2 pressure plates around the map with a friend. You stand on this pressure plate at the same time and the door opens. You enter the mysterious chamber and you fight 2 lizard mini bosses, one of ash and fire and the other of biting ice. Your battle wages until you finally arrive victorious, and in that moment you notice each of these elemental Empyreans have dropped an item, each their respective band, a wedding. These things are crazy. The fire one on high damage will create a fire tornado that chunks enemies' health, and pair that with the ice ring, which will create a frost blast of high damage. This will create a huge advantage, especially in any boss fight afterward. And the best part of these item unlocks, it means in all future runs, guess what? You can just find either band in whatever, wherever, any chest, 3D printer, and that goes for all of these unlocks. It truly means that literally every unlock means your next run will be different. A new quest, new powers, and new dopamine hits. And most of all, more fun. Now, as I said, I don't want to reveal any unlocks other than that one, especially when it relates to the secrets of the stages, but obviously in the footage I'm showing of the game, there's going to be a lot of pictures of items that you don't recognize, but that's just how it looks. You still don't know what the achievement is, how to complete it, till I've at least gotten you to look at the achievements on the store page for some of the items, but you still don't know what they even do, so get wrecked. You can even look into what challenges are out there within another section of your logbook now. Alright, so now we're going to talk about other characters, which is going to be very hard to do without revealing things, especially characters themselves. So I decided I'm going to talk about one character and their achievement, because everyone unlocks them extremely quickly, and this is you can skip to the time code on screen if you don't want the hero spoiler anyway. There's 14 total survivors, by the way, 2 from DLC. And the one I'm talking about is the hope you aren't about to get spoiled if you didn't want to. Bandit, stealthy, sneaky assassin type, but made into a hybrid with a sort of cowboy. This character's all about resetting cooldowns with a final bang. See, with him, you do more damage within an 180-degree hemisphere behind a target. And he comes with invisibility and a dagger. So you go invis, you dagger from behind the enemy, you shoot your bullets, then you shoot your pistol, and if your pistol gets the kill, it will reset all of your cooldowns along with the pistol shot. And along with that, if your invis backstab crits the enemy, this will also give them a debuff known as Hemorrhage, which deals 2,000 base damage over 15 seconds, and you can stack it. So if you can perfect your skill cycling, this guy will shred anything that gets in your way. And to unlock him is a simple achievement that hopefully will not take you very long. It will most likely be a couple of runs on Huntress, obviously, because all the homies hate Common don't. Basically, to get him, just beat the teleporter in the 3rd stage without dying. You got this, no problem. And now we speak of the alternate abilities and the achievements / challenges that relate. For one character, of course, as to not spoil too much. And also, this video won't be 4 million hours long. And so you could guess, let's talk about Huntress, because boy do I have something to say here. Before I get into it, I want to say I picked this one because I dislike Huntress's alt kit. It is probably one of the least interesting ones that I've found besides the common don't. So I just figured, you know, if I'm going to spoil any of the alt kits, may as well make it one of the cool characters that has a nice normal kit, but kind of a fucked up alt kit that is not as much fun. So anyway, Huntress. I was so excited to unlock your alternate abilities, and boy was I sorely disappointed. See, Huntress's alt abilities kind of feels like an afterthought that the devs didn't really think through when it came to mismatching her kit. Her primary fire alt, you must complete a challenge in which every single bounce of your glaive kills an enemy. Very easy. And it unlocks a drawback and fire version of your arrows, and also it fires more arrows a shot if you luck a crit. But in reality, it sucks. At least comparatively when looking at how well her normal fire works within the space of her kit. This thing feels like you're standing around more aiming at the guy, not blinking, jumping, having fun. It feels like it does pitiful damage, and I straight up quit my run after using it 2 minutes and swapped back to the normal shot. It was not fun. I am going to play some footage of a run I do with like the full alt kit while I'm talking about this, and it'll probably be like more time I'm using the primary fire than I did originally. And if you're going to say, well, later in the match with more items, you can do this and that, shut up, nerd. If I wasn't having fun at the beginning, I'd rather just use something that's fun the whole time. Obviously an opinion, but it is my own and I'll be standing with it. But of course, now what? The alt for her blink, is that any better? No, it is not. It's like the normal blink, but you get 3 charges and it sucks balls because you can't go up or down. Just kind of horizontal, cutting the enjoyment of this crazy movement ability in half. And not only that, but the up blink actually has versatility beyond battle, allowing for far faster traversal of maps that have a more vertical layout. And as you've already known, being quicker in this game is beneficial, especially when you are quick and you can get your loot fast. Okay. So now what are the thoughts about the ulti alt? I mean, arrow rain is sick and all. I bet they went all out with this alt. The last one that you needed to unlock, the blink one, you need to have 12 crowbars in one run on Huntress. This ult that I'm about to talk about unlocks from not falling below 100% health in 2 specific map stages. And alright, the ult, it's okay. For the challenge being a lot more difficult than the other 2, I was expecting a whole different power level, but I'm kind of just, it feels like a preference option. Neither of the ult are OP or bad, although normal arrow rain does come with the added benefit of lots of projectiles in an area that can proc a lot of your items a lot more often and way better. Oh, come on, this one blows too. Compared to the normal, at least. I'm sorry, Huntress, but for how much I love your base kit, damn is the alt one straight up dumpster fire. To end on a lighter tone for this section, we're going to talk about artifacts. A way to play your own way. A way to customize the rain to your liking. Don't want to fight healthier enemies but want more? Boom. Half health, double enemies. Want enemies to have a chance to drop loot and no more chests? Bada bing. It's done. Want to choose your loot and see how much damage you're truly capable of? Boopity bow bippity schlop. It's there. I hate that one though, because, you know, randomize is pretty fun. And that's what I was talking about earlier when I said that this is literally the build crafting artifact. It's all about what kind of run you want. And there is like 15 or so artifacts. I'll put them like up on screen, like the images, like the pictures. I won't show like what they all do. But to get these artifacts isn't a simple thing. No. I hope you know what a shape is, because in this stage, before the moon, there is a secret drop down area. Now again, time code for this, if you want to find this on your own, skip on ahead, but I'll show in the footage me going down, and either me or a friend, because I died in putting the code. Each artifact has its own code, and you can either look it up or just screenshot this thing I'm going to put up on the screen. You input the code, you activate it, and the portal will open. You now can go back up and do all the teleporter stuff, like kill all the enemies, but don't actually activate to teleport away. You get all your loot, but if you don't activate the teleporter, you can just leave and head back to the portal and go through that after. Within the portal, there will be a thing in the middle that is known as stabilized, and your goal is to, well, destabilize like the CIA does with governments. To do this, you find an item around the map, walk up, and interact. After the first interact, enemies will begin spawning in. They will also have a chance to drop this item. You should just get one at a time and then go dunk it. There is no need to pick up more than one at a time. The best part, in my opinion, about this fight is that within the void portal room, you are fighting the enemies that are affected by the current artifact code you just put in. So even if you didn't start the game with one, during the unlock, you will basically have it activated. So for example, the enemy drops loot 1, well shit, it happens, and you get a lot of stuff in this very small and very packed room. It does go away once again when you exit this room, but I thought that was pretty cool. To unlock it fully, you must interact with the ball while holding the item 4 times. Once that's done, the ball will be gone and your artifact will be floating there. And that's it. You just grab it up and you get the achievement for a trial of some kind. Then move on, and now with the ability to turn the game to a whole different experience. And that's artifacts. Every game can be different, and you can even randomize the artifacts that you want in your run. And that's it for this part of the video about achievements. It was quick because in reality I can't talk about a lot of the best parts about this because I really don't want to spoil too much for you guys. And if it comes to the fact where people are like, oh, I'm not going to be able to play the game, can you just make a video or like talking about all of these items, what they do, the lore behind them, what are the secrets and all the maps, I will be happy to do it. I love this game. But obviously it wouldn't be like the next video, but it would eventually be down the line. I think it'd be fun. So now we head into our final section of the video known as secrets, challenges, and basically endgame-ish. But not really, since all the stuff could be done on your first run if you're the GOAT or you get lucky. I don't mean like secrets like characters per se. They're like character adjacent sometimes, but not like technically the character. There's not like hidden map stuff like I was talking about the pressure plates as much. I'm trying to like avoid the big stuff while also giving you in on like the important stuff. But there is a lot of other miscellaneous stuff that isn't an item or like a fancy unlock that is really cool. Such as the portals. And when I told you that this isn't how you get characters and items and stuff, and it's more adjacent, stretching the truth a little bit, just saying. I'm gonna try my best here, but I'm gonna mention that these portals do lead to stuff. I'm not gonna say what's in the portals exactly, other than the stuff that doesn't matter about being spoiled, because like who cares, you just want to know how the portal works. But make sure you check these out. Okay, to begin, we'll talk about the most important portal that you will find, and not only that, but probably one of the most important parts of a run. This is the blue portal. There's a chance that this portal will just appear randomly throughout your runs at the end of a teleporter event. If you want to know if you got it, the center of the teleporter will have a small blue orb spinning around it, and you'll get a cue in chat that a blue orb has appeared. That is your indicator that the portal will appear once the teleporter event is done. Now, if you want to enter the portal, obviously, you have to actually go through that and not activate the teleporter. But that's not the only way to get the blue portal. If you recall, there was a currency that I might have mentioned, maybe not now that I'm thinking about it. They're known as lunar coins. These coins drop randomly from enemies, and you'll easily be able to stack them by just playing. With a single one of these coins, you can activate a newt statue. These blue lil bros will spawn in random spots in most maps. Just find one, give it a coin, and bam, a text pop-up will say a blue orb has appeared, and now that teleporter, even before if lacking, will now have a portal orb. Now, I recommend not spending any of your lunar coins until you have either 10 and get lucky with a portal, or you have 11 and you can use one on a newt statue. If you want to know why, well, all I will say is that this blue portal zone has the capability of unlocking you 3 separate characters. Technically, unlock might not be the right term because that would only apply to 2 of them. Anyway, the easiest of which will cost you, coins, but I won't tell you who it is. The other amazing parts of this room is a secret area that is a challenge zone. It's special. This is a really fun area I go to in every game now. It's basically like a bunch of teleporter kinda adjacent type events. It's hard to explain what it actually does because it's really cool to experience for the first time. I'll have some footage here. It isn't exactly a teleporter event. I'll put a black screen countdown of like 3, 2, 1 before I play it, just in case you want to like look away. I don't know. But to get to this area, well, that you'll just have to figure out on your own. But I wanted to mention it here because it is a portal inside of a portal, and this one is called the llBonkll portal. Another great part of the blue portal room is there will be 2 options as to where you would like to go next. If you spend 2 lunar coins, you can direct your run to maps that you want. And this is actually a lot more helpful than it sounds but when you don't understand the game yet, especially when you're going for the achievements and challenges. When you pick one, all you have to do is head back to the portal that you came from and exit the void hellscape. Also, there's a salamander in this room. He cool though. The last little bit here about the blue portal is that there are lunar items and a lunar shop that you can buy, and these items, as aforementioned, usually come with a negative and positive spin aspect to them. For example, there is one I despise that replaces your shift ability with turning into a shadow. And boy, do you not want to accidentally pick up that in a late run with a character that relies on his utility like I did. I freaking lost my invis and there went that run. But yeah, there was 5 items all for sale for a couple lunar coins, and if you want, you can just as well spend your lunar coins to refresh said shop and get some more variation to your game. Some of these are super fun. My favorite has to be the one, actually just saying, I'm mentioning one negative, one positive one, that's it. My favorite one is the one that cuts your health in half and doubles your damage. It is very dangerous to use, especially if you stack them, but damn.
How long I've been waiting for this?
Saying you're a glass cannon doesn't even do it justice with the right build. You're more like the thinnest possible piece of paper cannon. And that's just the blue portal, without revealing too much hopefully. So, which one's next? Gold portal, baby! This one's more of a challenge type portal. Within lies a boss and a crap ton of enemies. Along with that comes a special item that you only unlock after finishing this portal. I'm not going to tell you what the item is, but I will tell you that it is crazy good, and if you ever get the chance, head into that Goldie. I'm not telling you who the boss is. You'll have to figure that out. I'm not telling you how to beat the portal challenge. You have to figure that out. Suck it. Well, how do you get the glue orb to appear? Well, it's simple. Those shrines that you've been seeing all the time, well, you might spot one that looks also slightly different than the lucky shrine, with a price to match its new shiny look. After activating this shrine, something will pop up in the bottom left that says a gold orb appears, and then you can head in after the teleporter event just like the blue one. But be prepared. There's one more portal to be discussed in the main game. This is the celestial portal, but to explain that, I'll have to explain the best, and I mean the best part of this game, the looping. See, when you get to the moon teleporter, not on the moon, but the one that gets you there, you can interact with the outer ring to change its position. After you do this, it will no longer say that the teleporter aligns with the moon in chat, but instead, the alignment is with a planet. Completing this teleporter event will now send you back to the beginning, or just the next stage since you aren't fighting the boss yet. You still have all your items, and you can run right through 5 stages, right back to the moon if you want. Or you can loop and motherfucking loop until you have reached peak loop cook.
Jake, it's me! I'm just all souped up now.
Oh, jeez, Finn. For a minute there, I thought you were one of those twisted lost soul boss guys.
I will show some footage of a longer run I had, and you will see some of the chaos that unfolds in these later runs. But the reason I said I had to explain that in order to explain the celestial portal is that after you've beaten the game once, not the boss, but looped, completing the 3rd teleporter event will spawn a new orb, and once completed, you will have the option to enter the celestial realm, a broken, fragmented realm, and all you see is a towering object. Timecode on screen if you don't want to know what happens. Interacting with this object will obliterate. You and your run will end. Doing this on any character in the hardest difficulty unlocks their alternate skin, just like beating the boss in the hardest difficulty will also do. And something else happens. You achieve someone else. And holy, best character in the damn game. Yeah, I revealed how you unlock someone, but again, I gave you like milliseconds to skip, nerd. But it's gonna take you a while to get there. And some of you may not even get there. As I've previously stated, this game is somewhat difficult. If you're trying to rush it, it won't go well. I'd recommend running some artifacts if you're having trouble to make the runs more enjoyable when you're going for longer runs. I love using artifacts, and if anyone says it's dumb, well, shut up, they're fun. Something else I want to talk about that's falling under the miscellaneous things are the lunar shrine. That piece of motherfucker garbage trash can. I can't even beat my own game because I have 654 goddamn mushrooms. Anyway, the other thing is my favorite enemy to find, called the scavenger. If you kill him, he may drop his pack. You can open it to a bunch of items, sometimes he even drops a shit ton of drones that you can buy, which is cool. Oh, and I guess the logbook has more stuff like lore on monsters obtainable there. Logbook stuff is like, there's a lot. It's just a lot of different stuff. Sometimes you also find on maps something called a radar scanner. And if you buy it, you'll unlock the logbook section for that map known as the environment log. Adjacent to the monster logs, this has some lore stuff. It's basically it for things I can personally attest to have seen and experienced. At least most of the things. I obviously couldn't include everything in this video. I currently have around 40 hours in the game at the time of writing this, and a little over 50% of the achievements. That may have changed to when I'm actually editing it. I'll probably like put up a little comparison because I've probably gotten at least a couple more achievements and a few more hours in the game. At the time of writing this, again, 50% of the achievements, and even just talking about this game, I want to jump back into my next run. Of course, there's going to be some things I missed, maybe some things I forgot to talk about, or hardly hardly touched on because I'm trying to avoid spoiling too much. If you want to leave comments about your favorite things about this game, something I missed, that is something you love about this game, go for it. The comments are not spoiler free. I just want to make that clear. You can talk about whatever you want. I'll put a pinned comment that says there will be spoilers probably here when they start coming in. So if people see them, well, that's on them. If you want to talk about the game with people, feel free to say whatever, your favorite items, stuff like that. Share your favorite builds. And the reason I'm avoiding talking about, and spoiling a lot of this is because, as I previously stated, the most fun you have in this game is because you're seeing all these new unlocks and trying new things and having new builds, entering a portal for the first time, finding a random huge-ass fucking drone. There's just so much, and yet such a small game at the same time. It's like getting a small present at Christmas, but it was an iPhone. Small package, infinite possibilities. So now we head into our final chapter of the video, where I discuss my likes, dislikes, and finally give it a score out of 10. You could probably guess that I want you to try this game, at least those who can afford it. Everyone should play this thing right fricker now, man. And obviously the DLC adds so much more to the game, but I'll save that for another video. This one I think is full enough. So first we discuss a few of my likes. I'll limit it to 4 of the best both dislikes and likes that I have for this game to keep it consistent with our first iteration of this series and to keep this section a little brief as I touched on a lot of the things that I enjoyed the most throughout the video. Number 1. The characters and kits. Other than the common don't, every character is unique and extremely fun. I couldn't talk much about my favorites other than Huntress, who is my number 3, but maybe in a future I'll do another risk video of some kind if this does well about my favorite characters. The other 2 I'll say are a range melee hybrid dot character and a melee focused character all about movement who has some IV frames. And that is all I will say about them. As you can probably guess if you've played this game and know which characters I'm talking about, I love movement in this game, and when you have a million items, you are just so fast. It's almost impossible to take a step. I love it. For my second like, the looping just adds variety to infinitum and allows for reaching that power level that makes you truly feel as though the name of the game is wrong. Maybe the risk was never to you at all, but those who oppose your bullet rain. Third thing, easily the artifacts. Spices up every match. You can randomize them. The sheer number of them means it will be a bit till you have them all. And most of all, the artifact that makes monsters drop items paired with the double monsters half health is just an absolutely game-changing experience that straight up feels like playing a new game. And that's not even mentioning a bunch of the other cool ones, like pick items. Drones are now lizard eggs, and give them one of your items to hatch them and they have that item stuff. That's so cool. And just a bunch of options that makes this game accessible to anyone and to any way you want to play it. You can stack any of these on each other. It's a complete mismatch, and every game could be different. And yes, double enemies does mean 2 final bosses. And finally, our fourth like is the fucking ukulele, motherfucker. Let's go. Best item, easy fucking ukulele. OP is full. Alright, so moving on to the not so great and the straight up game breaking. Alright, for our first dislike, and this is a big one, random connection problems with certain people's games, including mine. See, when I play with a friend, they must be host. Otherwise, there's a small chance my game will kick them out, even when their internet and my internet are fine. They'll just lag, and bam. And if they are leader, this happens to me. I will freeze. Now, the difference is, I know it's my game because when that person plays with anyone else, that other player doesn't freeze. It's only when I am joining their lobby that I freeze. And anyone in my lobby freezes. It could be 3 different people if I'm the host. Now, obviously it only happens sometimes. I've looked online and so far I've seen other people with this problem, but no one has a solution. So if you happen to know, please tell me in the comments. This can be a huge problem, especially when experiencing the game with friends is itself a whole different experience. It's a lot of fun, especially if you're both going in blind like me and my buddy Isaac did at first. For the second dislike, I'm gonna have to say the randomly getting one shot. I know, skill issue. It really does happen at what seems like random times though. I don't know. Sometimes I'm full health, I'm destroying everything the whole time, and then bada bing, bada fuck yo ass, and they have negative 100 health, which when you're playing with friends is no big deal, but alone, bam, your run is over. Yeah, I know, skill issue, whatever. Third problem I have with this game, not enough characters. this is obviously more of an opinion, unlike my first dislike and second, but I feel like there should be more characters in the game that's this far into its game's lifetime, because it came out 4 years ago. And yes, I know we got 2 with the DLC, but it still feels like too little to me. I feel like there should have been more in the DLC or in the main game, or maybe they should have had another DLC by now. I don't know. It's one of the biggest draws to a game like this for me, to experiment with the different characters, especially in this game where they have like alternate kits you can mix match. And finally, my last dislike it's definitely not an opinion one. The game can get insane, and even with lowering settings slightly and making sure there are no corpse spawning, which you can do in the settings, when you roll back around enough times and you have a shit ton of items and all the enemies are elites or huge, and you activated like 3 challenges in the mountain, so there's like an unsustainable amount of enemies in the game, it will struggle. Your computer will struggle. You'll see frame drops and the such. Now, this is something entirely avoidable if you wish, by just never going long enough in a run. But once again, this is like contradicting one of my likes of the game, as the looping over and over is my favorite part, getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and seeing just like the bosses spawn and then fucking they're gone. I had one run where I looped 5 times, and it just got to a point like where I was on the highest settings at the time, where I just would do a boss and my entire GPU and CPU would be able to cook an egg in winter outside 30 feet away from my computer. Anyway, those are my biggest W's and L's within the game. If I were to give all of my like and dislikes, I would absolutely confirm right now that the likes would heavily outweigh the dislikes by far. Hoppity hoopity heckin' cooked, me boys. And so what's the score? Well, buggy multiplayer with no fix for me right now takes a whole point for me. And so does the inability to loop for infinite amount of time without having to ruin your enjoyment by tanking graphics. Just to be clear, mine started getting bad at the time with corpses off and only high setting instead of ultra. It was like 1 down from the top after that first. So when I did my original 5 loops and started getting out of hand, I brought everything down like 1 level, and then I got rid of corpses after that too. And there's still issues if you keep looping for a really long time, just because of the sheer enemy spawning, which can be a problem, which is why I take it 1 more point. But I don't want to make this game look any worse than that. The other 2 things are more like personal gripes, so I'll like make that 0.25 of a point each for the personal gripes about the characters, and you know, I think that's fair. So overall, this game for me scores a 7.5 out of 10, and for me that is a very good score. And it is an incredible game, a masterpiece, a pinnacle of what an indie game can be in terms of gameplay. The only reason it doesn't get a 10 out of 10 is very simple tweak issues I personally had and some performance problems. Nothing really takes away from the true experience unless you get unlucky like me and have the multiplayer problems. Because again, this isn't only an issue for some, so you might be already playing an 8.5 game because yours doesn't mess up multiplayer. As previously stated, play it, nerd. And with that, we have finally reached the end of this voyage. Holy, that was long. And more than just another indie gem vid, really. I mean, it's part 2, and I think it's pretty clear it's moved far beyond my original parameters for this series, so I think we're gonna have to come up with some new rules next time. Or just talk about the games the way I want to talk about the indie gem games, how I want to do it, I don't know. This is just, it just doesn't fit because of how broad indie games really mean. There can be tiny games, there can be giant games. This is an example of that. My first game I played was like me playing the game for like 45 minutes an hour and I beat it. This one I played for like 40 hours, I'm like 50% done. So there is a very wide range in indie games, and I think setting constraints to that is kind of gonna hurt the videos a little, except for the 1 hour rule. It doesn't matter what indie game it is. If I'm not having fun an hour in, I'm fucking quitting. That's just how it is. That means it's not a gem. Anyway, probably a few shorter videos coming next in the series. Not like the next video, just the next indie gem video will probably be a much simpler game than this, like the first one was, where cleaner. I just kept adding and adding to this script because every time I was like finding new stuff and realizing there was, oh, this is in the game, that's in the game, I just had to add it. I had to tell you guys. So there was just there's so much for the taking that Risk has to offer. So I once again ask you, will you brave the storm and face unknown perils for the chance at true glorious reward? Or will you cower and let the raindrops fall over a crashed ship and view your fellow survivors perish while you rethink your decision? I've been llBonkll. If you don't like this video, you'll be stuck playing Common Don't forever, and good night.